Hello and welcome to the latest episode of Off the Fence, brought to you in association with BoyleSports on all the At the Races digital platforms. We've come so far. We have now got to the week before the Cheltenham Festival. We've been building up to it, of course, all season. And now we're here to do our main Cheltenham Festival preview show. So coming up in this show, we're essentially going through all the grade ones over the 4 days of the Cheltenham Festival. We'll be throwing in some other shouts as well. We've got a very brief look back at the weekend just gone. And of course, I get to do this every Monday night in the company of Barry Geraghty and Tony Keenan. Let's do a quick check-in with said boys. Barry, how are you? It's been a bit of a turbulent week for you, yourself, Team Constitution Hill mainly.
It has. I was at Kempton for the famous piece of work. Now, I suppose I thought there was a little bit more hope than there was this morning, being Monday, when the news broke that he was going to miss the festival, which is really disappointing. But yeah, bit of a kick in the tail. But he's he'll be back soon enough, I'm sure. But just disappointing that he won't be there.
Yeah, look, it's really disappointing, obviously, mainly for those closest to him, but for racing fans as well, for the sport and for the Cheltenham Festival. We all wanted to see the big superstar line up, and sadly the news came out that he won't be at Cheltenham, but hopefully we might see him at Aintree or even Punchestown, and if not, then into next season. Of course, he's still a young horse, and so still so much to look forward to. Tony, we're going to focus mainly on the positives on this show. How's your form ahead of Cheltenham?
Yeah, all good. Bit of a sickening day here today with Constitution Hill being confirmed out, and same with Marine Nationale. So yeah, hopefully the next 7 days or so keeps most horses with a relatively clean bill of health, and the rest of them will manage to get there to line up. Well, I thought it does take away from it. There's no getting away from that. But yeah, as I say, hopefully relatively clear run over the next week or so.
Okay, yeah, I'm trying to keep the mood cheery here. I know it's been a bad day, but this is it now, like you say. A clear run from now until the Cheltenham Festival. Fingers crossed. I spent the morning down at Paul Nichols's, who's champion trainer, and he's got a whole clutch of horses going to the festival, as you would expect. So it's just like, it feels very different in those big yards at this time of year. There's definitely a sort of added pressure, added tenseness around the place. But fingers crossed we all get there now. Right, let's do a very brief look back at what happened where before we get stuck into the Cheltenham Festival preview. First of all, Tony, come to you quickly for Blood Destiny, who managed to turn the tables, dropping back in trip with Spillan's Tower, got back to winning ways at Navan when we saw him at the weekend.
Yeah, Connections opted here to take in this flying boat race rather than the Arkle. Possibly a horse that wouldn't have taken the preliminaries too well at Cheltenham last season. It looks like the right call. Back to 2 miles seemed to suit him really well. I know he's at his 2 runs this season over 2.5, but his jumping has looked a real asset. He's very slick, and that was the story again here on Saturday. Also, first time in a while he's actually taken a lead as well. I think that seemed to suit him as well. Paul Town was happy enough to let flanking manoeuvre go on, and he settled fine in behind. He jumped well in behind, and again he does just look like he's going to be better over 2 miles. I know Willie Mullins prepped Flame Bearer into the what's it now, the Willow Worm Gold Cup at Fairyhouse at Easter through this race last season, but to me Blood Destiny's more of a 2 mile. I wouldn't be one bit surprised if Spillan's Tower was able to get the ground back on him at Fairyhouse. He travelled fine. His just jumping wasn't slick enough back at 2 miles. I think 2.5 will see him to better effect. He was also given away, I think, £6 penalty, and it didn't get an overly hard time in the finish. I'd say it's all about Fairyhouse with him. And also it will be interesting. I think this year, what is there, 16 or 17 days between the last day at Cheltenham and the first day of the Fairyhouse Easter meeting. That's as close as really it ever gets. So these horses that have maybe missed travelling across the water may be at an advantage in terms of preparation, if not ability.
Yeah, that'll be interesting to see with that difference of sort of timing gap. Barry, the one horse you wanted to mention from the weekend was Personal Ambition, who won the Grade 2 up at Kelso. For that man, Ben Pauling, again, he's having such a great time of it. And of course, this result will have pleased him because it confirms that handstand form, because of course, Personal Ambition beat Django Bay here.
Exactly, yeah, and it was a good performance. Jumping was a little untidy early on. I'd say he was taken off his feet, but he travelled reasonably well through the race, jumped better then, and just a good solid performance. I'd imagine he's a horse who will be better up and trip, and he'll love a fence in time. There's talk about going to Aintree, so he has the option of the 2.5 or the 3 mile there, but he's a horse going the right way. Having disappointed in Sandown a couple of runs ago, but was impressive in Doncaster in his previous start, but this was a big step up again.
Yeah, one to keep on the right side of, going in the right direction, career trajectory wise. Right, that's the sort of weekend review, very briefly done. Just a couple of horses we want to mention. Now we get to crack on with our Cheltenham Festival preview part of the show, the main bulk of the show. But before we do, Tony, nice to just set the scene for punters out there, for fans as well. How are you approaching the Cheltenham Festival?
Yeah, I just want to say a few bits about how I'm betting on the Cheltenham Festival next week, because I know there's people tuning in here probably for the first time all year, and there's people who are probably watching most of the episodes, and that's great. Thanks a million for watching. But I do have a few kind of points and bits and things to make. Like I was making this up last night. Like my Ante-Post bets and stakes, I'd say are about a quarter of what they've been over the last few years this year. I don't know, I think it's been that kind of year. Some of that's laziness, to be honest, and some of it is just concentrating more on day-to-day racing, and I'd say some of it is kind of lack of opportunity. I think it's been a very hard year to find kind of Ante-Post horses, and just from a purely personal betting point of view, like this next week's not far from the be all and end all for me. Like there's plenty of good meetings in Ireland even coming up this weekend. I'd kind of be looking to concentrate on those as well. I'm gone very towards the thing, like I'd like to back a winner in the next 24 hours rather than something that's 4 weeks away now at the moment. But that, again, I just wanted to be straight about that, just to point out to people how I'm kind of betting it. I'm going into the meeting, I suppose, quite open-minded, having not had a lot of bets. Like I'm really undecided on a lot of races. I'm kind of flaky on others. I'm kind of hoping that bets will pop up, and sure, if they do, they do. But I do think the prices now are obviously been available there for whatever, 6 months, 4 months, 3 months in some cases. Like there are going to be points next week where they're really going to look very different to what they are now. Like mad things can happen for all sorts of reasons. Like I'd be very open to changing my mind. Based on price and based on kind of information and things. And I do think over next week there's still going to be lots of good bets to be had. There's going to be lots of volatility, and that can be good, like as long as you're trying to get the best of it price wise. I did also want to mention, like, I think I've mentioned 6 different Ante-Post bets over the course of the show, and I just want to do a quick recap on them. Some good, some not so good. I think the first one I mentioned was Mascada for the Mayor's Chase at 14 to 1. Like I'm just writing that off as a bad bet. She's not turning up there, obviously. 90% of me thinks I've just got it completely wrong. There is 10% of me thinks that they've been riding her wrong all season, and maybe we'll see a different approach in the Grand Annual, but I wouldn't be holding out too much hope for that. Around Christmas, mentioned 2 horses, kind of smallish for the Triumph Hurdle, both around 20s on the machine at the time, Geraghty and Nürburgring. The first one of those is totally busted flush at this stage. She has no chance, I wouldn't think, in the Triumph. Nürburgring has a little bit of a squeak. He's been left off intentionally. He wouldn't be without a chance. Then there was Fieldor for the Ryanair. I think he was around 33 to 1. Tim mentioned him now. He's somehow shortened in or 10 or 12 to 1. I think that says more about the race than probably it does about him. He has a chance, but it is hinging on improving for this kind of step up and stuff. But a bit of rain would help and maybe negate make the chance of Banbridge a little bit lesser. So yeah, look, my favourite bet, and I hope I made this clear as we were kind of going along, was the Yellow Clay for the Champion Bumper, kind of at 16 to 1. That was a strong bet. I still really like him. He's half the price I think he should have, kind of on the form, but I'm just looking forward to him in a big way. And also Waterford Whisper for the Martin Piper. He'd be kind of my second favourite bet. I think he was 12s or 14s. I'm just keen on him. I just think he's a well handicapped horse in Ireland. Hopefully that's going to translate over to Cheltenham. And the last one was Cork Rambler, I think, in the Gold Cup, kind of more so maybe in the sub-markets each way without the favourite, and I'd still be quite keen on him. So yeah, some of them are okay. Really looking forward to the Yellow Clay. Hopefully he'll get involved in kind of an Open Champion bumper. But yeah, looking forward maybe next week to trying to figure a few more of the races out, and probably passing on a few of them too, because some of them do look quite difficult with kind of skinny, solid enough short price favourites.
And of course, we will be looking at those races day to day. As I said, we will have our daily festival preview shows, doing it a little bit differently this year. They're basically going to be short, snappy preview shows out in plenty of time for you guys to enjoy in your own time. And Tony, I think you did make it very clear how keen you were on the Yellow Clay after that Leopardstown run. And as a result, BoyleSports have been very kind, because although you advised him at a much bigger price, he is obviously shorter elsewhere, and he is one of our price boosts this week. So courtesy of BoyleSports, we have 3 horses price boost. I'll reveal, stay tuned, the other 2 as the show goes on. But as Tony's already mentioned him, the Yellow Clay in the bumper has been price boosted by BoyleSports to 9-1 from 8-1. But of course, any shrewd listeners and watchers out there will know that Tony advised him at a much bigger price. Right. On we go then. So this preview, we'll be passing on certain races. We'll be discussing some of these grade ones in a more general sense, but stay tuned obviously for those daily shows when we will of course be giving our tips, and some tips obviously to follow on this show too. So without further ado, boys, let's get stuck straight in, and we will kick off with the Supreme, which obviously because of the Ballyburn factor has a sort of slightly confusing look. Barry, I'm going to start with you here. We've at the moment, the prices are currently Ballyburn 10-11 at the top of the market, Mystical Power 4-1, Tully Hill equal price 4-1, then Firefox 5, Geraghty and Tony out to 13-2, Sladesfield in there at 8, Brighter Days Ahead won't be going, I don't think, at 14. So, Barry, the question for me is, where is Ballyburn going to show up?
So yeah, we're left wondering with Willie Mullins, I suppose. Will Ballyburn go here, or will he go for the Bearing Bingham? You would think maybe reading Tommy Wrong could go for the 3 Mile. That would simplify it to some degree. Tully Hill is an option here as well, but he could very well run the 2. So there's a bit of wait and see. Tully Hill definitely would have a chance. I suppose Mystical Power and Geraghty and Tony, for me, both of those, probably their form is questionable. And the alternative I would like would be Firefox. He scored badly after Nace and was lame as well, so he would be the alternative to me. But if Ballyburn does line up, he would be the one to beat, and be hard to beat, I'd imagine.
Yeah, I mean, Tony, the general consensus seems to be from lots of people I've spoken to, lots of things I've heard, although we do like to form our own opinions, of course, is Ballyburn is the one wherever he shows up. Are you of that view, or over 2 miles would you be more kind of like he can be beaten?
I'm trying not to think about this race, because this thing is just going to wreck your head where they're running and stuff like that. It's just wasting your time. It's so bloody annoying. Like just taking up headspace. Yeah, I do think Ballyburn is 1A, definitely. And he's the one that we're placing the others around. Yeah, but beyond that, I don't know. My take on it, I have a couple of thoughts just that aren't maybe just Ballyburn and where he's running and stuff like that. The Supreme, Willie Mullins' first string has a very good record in the Supreme. I just had a look at this. Like, I think he's run 14 horses since 2010 that were the first string in each of those 14 years. 5 of them won, with 3 more of them hitting the frame. Just if you are trying to talk yourself into a Willie Mullins outside or second, third, fourth string, the stats are not good for them. Like, they're not from 25 with just 3 places. It's a very similar pattern with the Ballymore. The Albert Bartlett is a different story. His outsiders can well win in that. So that's just something to bear in mind. But maybe you hear horses, maybe they're down the pecking order. They're the Asian. I like Asian Master, but he is down the pecking order. Even Tully Hill maybe down the pecking order. Bill or Craig Dickey or whatever his name is, there's a few other ones there that are going to be down the pecking order. My thought with these novice races, I would like to back Mystical Power. I would prefer to back him in the race that Ballyburn's not in. I would really like to back him against Tully Hill. I think he's just a better horse than Tully Hill. Their form ties in similarly with this horse Geraghty. To me, Mystical Power beat Geraghty far more impressively than Tully Hill. Tully Hill got out on the lead, broke away from them, and nothing got into it from off the pace. Now, I'm not saying he went to walk, the time was okay, but the way that Mystical Power kind of came from behind that horse off a steady pace and quick and clear, to me, was really impressive. I also think with Mystical Power, there's more scope to improve with him than something like Tully Hill. The horse only started racing in Ballinrobe last, April, May, 1 run in Galway, 1 run in Punchestown in January. Both Tully Hill and Ballyburn were coming off kind of multiple bumper runs and point runs. So no one improves horse like Willie Mullins. I'm kind of keen on Mystical Power, wherever he runs, but I would massively prefer if it wasn't against Ballyburn, to be honest. So yeah, that's kind of my thoughts on the kind of Supreme Ballymore type picture.
So your dream situation, Tony, would be that Ballyburn goes to the Bearing Bingham, Mystical Power and Tully Hill both run in the Supreme, and then you can have your strong view on Mystical Power over Tully Hill.
Yeah, I think that's kind of optimal, yeah.
Okay, we like optimal. We like to aim for optimal a week out. That's what we should be aiming for. Tony, let's stick with you for what now looks like a pretty weak Arkle. Obviously, news coming out of Marine Nationale. Not going to be running at the festival, as Tony's already touched upon. It means that Ante-Post is your market leader at 7-2, co-market leader with Founder 57-2, only a couple of half-point bigger. Gaelic Warrior 9-2, Hunter's Yarn in there, and Facile Vega priced up 11-2, 5-1. Fair to say that without Marine Nationale, this is not a strong renewal of an Arkle, is it?
No, and even with him in it, he had a bit to prove, and every horse in the race really has got some sort of a weakness or something to overcome, whatever it may be. Whether it's Ante-Post, he's not record at Cheltenham isn't very good. Found a 50, inclined to go right a little bit. JPR1, like, is he good enough? Quilixios, is he good enough? Hunter's Yarn, jumping's a bit of a worry. Is he good enough? I think Facile Vega should go for this race, and I'm just wondering if they're going to have a change of heart now at Marine Nationale. I'm not particularly pushed him back in Facile Vega if he goes for the 2 mile 3 race to Turners, but for him to be the outsider of the 3 horses from the Irish Arkle, to me, just feels a little bit off. I know he finished third at Leopardstown, but there was so little between them, really. And he had and jump at the last was a little bit awkward. Kind of meant that he couldn't get back at them. Paul Town was quite easy on him in the finish. He has flopped at Leopardstown now, not flopped, but he has underperformed at Leopardstown now 3 times. I don't know what it is about the place that doesn't suit him. His last 2 runs at Leopardstown over fence have been in 2 really steadily run races. Like Founder 50 was quick enough the front the last day, and the one at Christmas was just a very, very slowly run, messy kind of a race. But when he's turned up at Cheltenham, he's kind of obviously produced peak efforts in each of the last 2 seasons. Bit of soft ground would suit. His overall, just, I suppose, depth of form over the last 2.5 seasons is better than Ante-Post, is better than Founder 50. And I'm just hoping they're going to have a rethink with him and run him here. And I think I'd like to back him if he's the outsider of those 3. I know there's plenty of horses down the field there. You could give bits and pieces the chances to, but he is kind of the class act in the field with the proven course form. And with the top trainer, obviously. But I think in the vibes have been quite lukewarm with him since. Like, they're on and on about even running him. But as I say, the favourite coming out may change that.
Yeah, the Facile Vega thing is it's a real discussion point, Barry, because the case being made by Tony there, but you do have to take a bit of a leap of faith that the wheels are back on, which, as Tony's referenced, the quotes out of the yard and various stable tours and bits and pieces out there content-wise, it wouldn't fill you with confidence in regards to Facile Vega, full stop, whether it's 2 miles or 2.5.
No, there's a lot of forgiveness needed for his last couple of runs, and there was a good bit of optimism from the yard going into the last day, and he still didn't produce. So being honest, I was a big fan of his from early in the season, but I've lost hope on him at this stage. It's not the race that it often is. I suppose it lacks a lot of it has no strength and depth, really, I could say. Ante-Post was beaten 8 lengths behind Marine Nationale and 8 lengths behind Vauban. Both days very keen. His jumping was only adequate in the Supreme. His jumping has been very good over fences. There's not an awful lot between him and Founder 50, but just with JPR1 and horses like that there could be enough pace on up front, which could just make it a test and might suit a horse who just come from off the pace and a good traveller. So I'd be slightly with Ante-Post, but it's such a, I suppose it's a weak race. It lacks a standout horse, but there's a lot of average stock there as well. So it's not a race that would excite you, but I think Ante-Post might play to suit him.
Okay, yeah, not a race to excite you indeed, and a weak enough race. Similar quotes, well, maybe not the former, but the latter in terms of weak contest may apply to the Champion Hurdle. Now, no Constitution Hill, of course. Disappointing to lose these stars, but let's focus on the ones that are running. 1-3 State Man up at the top of the betting. Irish Point would need to have a sort of change of plan, really. Well, it's in the discussion, isn't it? 4-1. Same for Lossiemouth, 4-1. We very much expect her to be in the Mayor's Hurdle, but with all things Willie Mullins, it wouldn't be 1,000,000 to 1 that she could swap, I suppose, even at late notice. Not so sleepy 12s, Lucia in there at 14s, Pied Piper 16s, Zarek the Brave 16s. Barry, if the conversation's short and sweet and that Stateman just wins this, like, is there anything more to add here? I don't mean to just be basic about it, but you know what I mean.
It looks a little bit like that. And now Willie has mentioned that there will be a conversation, but he also mentioned how Sharjah could be supplemented. So I would imagine Sharjah being supplemented might be more likely than Lossiemouth switching from the mares. He does like to target the mares with a race, with a mare who he thinks will win it, and she obviously fits that bill. She is the only potential danger to Stateman. Irish Point, for me, he did really well over 3 mile at Leopardstown last time. He beat Magical Zoe and Down Royal. Good performance, but a long way off winning the champion hurdle or lowering Stateman's colours. So I think Lossiemouth could be the only danger to him if she happens to line up, but I'd say not likely. And Sharjah could have an each way chance, but he's been running over a fence, so he wouldn't really excite you either.
Tony, do you see any of these sort of left field last minute switches or supplementations coming into play at all, or even having effect on the race result?
Well, you're right. It's not a million that Willie Mullins will switch Lossiemouth. It's probably a zillion that he'll switch it. Oh, Jesus, there's no chance of that.
Oh, really?
He's not going to move the odds on shot from one race to the next. Like, oh God, no, and make it more difficult for his other odds on shot. I'd be absolutely amazed. Interesting race now from an each way perspective, because you're almost certainly going to get the 8, and there will be a bit of value there in the place part of each way bets. Irish Point is an interesting one. Oh God, like it's. They've a tough decision here. Gordon Elliott sounds like he wants to run this race. He was interviewed with Gary O'Brien there on RTV today. Quite strong. Champion Horde was the race. Wants to trade of second favourite in Grade 1, favourite in the other Grade 1. The awkward part of the decision, though, is are they going to know what the ground is going to be like for Teipu and Stayer in the Stayers hurdle? I don't know. The safety based person that I'd be maybe, or the not the gambling part of me would say, geez, I think I'd keep the two of them for the Stayers hurdle and make myself evens or something to win that, rather than possibly ending up with winning neither. It's not an easy decision, but it sounds like they're going to go to champion hurdle at the moment with Irish Point. I don't know, what do you think of that one, Vanessa? Because the switch does sound like it's on at the moment.
I'm shocked. Well, am I shocked to hear that? Not really. I wouldn't fancy him in here. I'd be with you. I'd be more inclined to run them both in the Stayers and just have a really solid chance of winning that, and maybe even having the 1-2. I know the Stayers is a deep enough race, and we'll get to that in due course, but I don't think I'd have him. It's the ground, like, if the forecast is right, they're going to be starting on good to soft on Tuesday. 2 miles good to soft around Cheltenham for Irish Point. I don't know about that. That would be my view. What about you, Barry?
I don't think he's good enough, to be honest. And what he's achieved as a 2 mile hurdler, I don't think would be good enough to be involved in the champion hurdle.
No, that would be my concern, essentially. Those are obviously the 3 main races from the Tuesday, but of course on any other day the other races are absolutely top class as well. You've got the Mares Hurdle, the Ultimate, National Hunt Chase, and the Boodles. My goodness. As I said, we are going to be doing the daily shows and we'll be talking about these races more in depth, but for now, at this point, Tony, would you like to flag anything else up for those aforementioned races?
Yeah, nothing in either the handicaps yet, and probably there won't be anything for me in the Ultimate. A lot of English form going to be in that. The Irish horses do tend to wait for Fairyhouse and Irish Grand National, understandably. In the Mares Hurdle, Lossiemouth is gone by, listening to people, and the ground is going to play a kind of part in this race. I think if the ground dries out, that will be a help to Astro Diamond. The thing about Lossiemouth is she is unproven at the trip. The connections don't seem in any doubt that she's going to stay, but we just don't know yet. And the one I've come down and have it a few quid on each way is Telmesomethinggirl, who has a good record at the meeting. She won the Dawn Run quite impressively in 2021. There were some half decent mares in behind her on that occasion. She would come back for the this race the following season, sent off 4-1, was still going well 2 out when she was brought down. Then had another kind of bad experience. I think it fell on her next start at Punchestown in the equivalent kind of race, also kind of going fine at the time. Then they went over fences. It just didn't work out at all. She just didn't look natural. She never really tucked it. She won a race or two, but it just really didn't suit her. And when she came back to Leopardstown over hurdles at Christmas this season, it looked as if she was kind of remembering the chase and she just didn't jump with any fluency, but much better at Naas the last day when she was second to Geraghty the Brave. Hurling was quite slick, travelled well, kind of wasn't as keen, kept him honest now to the lane, looked like a step back up and trip would suit a bit better ground, will definitely suit based on her kind of past form. So I can see her getting into the shake up. Like I just have no interest in backing Lossie Mount at 8 to 13. I'd much rather bet her each way at 20s and maybe look without the favourite, look on the place market, stuff like that. My other thought is on the National Hunt Chase. I think the English novices from 2.5 miles up are actually quite good. And I'm against.
Thank you. Here we go.
No, but not necessarily in the Arkle, but from there up, I think they're all right. I think they're a little bit underrated. I'm against both Embassy Gardens and Corbett's Cross. Embassy Gardens, I just don't know about him. I think the Naas race showed him the very good effect with the runner-up going round the inside and the third not staying. He's never won a race where he's had to get involved in a battle. He tends to win his races kind of impressively. I just don't think he's going to avoid winning this without there being some sort of a kind of a fight in the straight where kind of a tight finish. Maybe he has that much ability. I'm just not sure he does. Corbett's Cross, I just think he's a bit tricky. I'd find it hard to put any kind of faith in him. Certain type of ride maybe he's going to need. He hasn't always looked a natural offence. He's coming into a fall or an unseat, or been brought down, whatever you want to call it, happening at Fairy House. So yeah, a little bit iffy on him. I kind of like Broadway Boy here. I think he's very genuine, which might see him to good effect against the two kind of market leaders. He's an excellent record at the track. The only time he was beaten was when Flooring Porter got a soft lead against him. He's kind of, when was that, back in October? I just think that kind of race really didn't suit him. Won his next start at Cheltenham, and then this handicap that he won in December, again, that form of that is really solid with the Paul Nichols horse and Rapper coming out and fighting out the finish of an Ascot race afterwards. I thought he did very well to win that. Kind of made 3 mistakes in the middle of the race, would have put a lot of horses out of it, but just got back into his jumping rhythm and showed a right good attitude. Disappointed at Warwick the last time, but seemed to be very genuine excuses for that. He kind of scoped badly and he had ulcers afterwards. So I think going back to Cheltenham, he's kind of 6, 7, 8 to 1. I think he's a very, very solid each way bet in a race where I'm quite actually keen to take on the front two. Flooring Porter's target is still kind of undecided. He's kind of broadly same price for exchanges for both this and Steers Hurdle. I think he might actually be worth a dart in here. I think he's a little bit better than he ran at Leopardstown at Christmas, but Broadway Boy would be, of the ones that are likely to run, might play at the moment anyway.
I like that angle. I like the consistency in his track record angle, and like you, very easy to put a line through last time out given the track. And you know, he'd had some tough races. He'll be fresher now. I can see that totally. Should just mention that your selection in the Mares Hurdle, Telmesomethinggirl, is the next to our price boost. So she's out to 25 to 1 from 20s with BoyleSports. Now, don't forget, these will be for a limited time only. You need to check out the website and read the T's and C's for these price boosts. But so far on the board, you've got the Yellow Clay and the Champion Bumper at 9s and Telmesomethinggirl at 25s. I've still got one more to reveal. Barry, do you have anything else to add for Tuesday before we rock and roll on to Wednesday?
No, only just a couple. I suppose Meeting of the Waters, although he's to be a bit boring, picking a few favourites, and Willie Mullins has yet to win a handicap chase at the festival, but I thought his performance at Christmas, and he got £15 for that, and the English handicappers raised him another 2, which probably isn't too bad. I just thought he's potentially still a standout horse. He was well handicapped going into the Paddy Power. He won it really well. I'd say there's still more potential for him. And as regards the National Hunt Chase, I would agree with Tony of Broadway Boy. He's a horse I've liked all season. You could forgive him his last day. He's been freshened up for this now. But of the two, I was coming towards Embassy Gardens. I think he's a horse who's grown into himself as well. He's a massive horse with 17 hands, jump brilliantly. I just think he'll be better at this trip than Corbett's Cross. So he'd be the one I'd like at the top. But definitely Broadway Boy would be of interest each way.
Okay, on we go then to Wednesday, and we will kick off, Barry, with the Bearing Bingham, which of course, as we've discussed already, is all about whether we're going to see Ballyburn here. He is the even money favourite for this, as well as his short enough price for the Supreme, and it's the same sort of horses in behind him. Mystical Power 3 to 1. We don't know his final destination. Slade Steel 7 to 2. Il Atlantique, we know he's going to go here at 4 to 1. Reading Tommy Wrong might step up in trip. Then you've got Predator's Gold at 8, Goodley Park at 10s, and bigger prices thereafter. Again, very much waiting for confirmation at this stage, Barry. But do you have a favoured horse in here?
But so Ballyburn again, the obvious one. But the ones of interest to me would be Slade Steele. He obviously was behind Ballyburn at Leopardstown over 2 mile. He's going to be better over 2.5. And the one of Ben Pauling, handstands, who won the Sydney Banks. He's progressed nicely. He travelled well through that race. Good performance, but he's a horse who can improve. And I think he will improve with experience. So I'd like him at a fancy price each way. But obviously it all depends again on Ballyburn and where he goes. But of the ones towards the head of the market, Slade Steele definitely be of interest as well.
What about you, Tony, in here? Do you have any sort of confirmed views for this mid-div novices hurdle?
No, just backing up what I said in the Supreme. Willie Mullins, second, third strings don't really have a great record in, and after that, let's just wait and see what turns up.
Okay, short and sweet, like it. Yeah, we will wait and see what turns up. Let's talk all things Brown Advisory, guys. Brown Advisory Chase up next, of course, over the 3.5 miles a furlong for the staying novice chasers. And Fact to File is your 5 to 6 favourite currently. Stay Away Faye is next best, 100 to 30, has been price boosted from 11 to 4. Monty Star in there is 9 to 2. Embassy Gardens, we know he isn't going to go here at 5s. Grey Dawning 5 to 1, and Gaelic Warrior 10s. Very much expect to see him over a shorter trip. Like a lot of the horses in this race, Stay Away Faye, obviously I saw plenty of this morning. Looks in great nick with himself. And of course has a good record here at the track, Barry. But you know my love of Fact to File. And so I've personally am very much looking forward to this. Are you going to put a pin in my balloon here?
No, not at all, Vanessa. Definitely, I'll tie a balloon with it. I think Fact to File is a standout novice chaser of the year, and he'd be very hard to beat. What he did in Leopardstown the last two was brilliant. Lovely way of racing, jumps brilliantly. So much to like about him. Stay Away Faye has been solid, but a good stayer. And personally, if he was mine, I'd be heading for the National Chase. I think he'd enjoy every yard of that. Whereas I don't think he just quite would have the pace of Fact to File, and even Grey Dawning, for that matter, although he's probably more likely to go over the 2.5. But no, I'd be very much in the Fact to File camp.
Do you agree with that statement, Tony, that Fact to File's a standout novice chaser of this season?
I like him, but God, I can't face into him at the price. I'm quite flaky on this race, but I don't like either of the Irish horses in this. I don't like their prices. Like they're fine in what they've done, but I just think they don't deserve to be how short they are. And that said, I can't really just sell myself on any of the others. Just on Fact to File, like my concern with him is he's won time trials, not horse races. He has been very fast, I know that. But you just don't know when he's not at the race against for the last 3 fences of either of his most recent runs at Leopardstown. He's also inclined to go a little bit right at his fences. The other thing with him is, I don't know, he didn't look in love with the track in the Champion Bumper last year. He was doing his fair hanging late in the piece there. Inexperienced possibly, short trip in a bumper possibly, but it'd just be an England thing if you're taking odds on about him. And also that Champion Bumper, I know all the horses have come out and won out of it, but there's none of them are in the top 10 novice orders of the season. None of them are really figuring in any of these championship races. The Fact to File, you would assume, would be, you know, a relatively short price if you were a Baron Bingham or an Albert Bartlett horse. But yeah, just a little bit of an English. Monty Star, I just don't know that he's really achieved anything. He beat 3-card Bragg. I'm not even sure he stays 3 miles at Punchestown. His jump was much better then, and he's been kept fresh. And you know, the trainer set out with the plans, but I just thought both of those were a bit short. Stay Away Faye, I would agree with Barry, he just looks a little bit slow, but one thing he does have is he's beaten Irish horses at the Cheltenham Festival, which is a big point of his claims. Like he won the Albert Bartlett last season, and kind of was up there with a strong pace the whole way through, and kind of found plenty. So it'd be hard to see him not been involved, but I just haven't fully made up my mind yet. But it's just very, very unlikely we'll back near the Fact to File on Monty Star.
Okay, I'm going to stick with you then, Tony, to discuss the feature race on Wednesday, which is, of course, the Champion Chase. Courtesy of Edwardstone, this race sort of looks a bit chunkier than it may have looked sort of 2/3 of the way through the season, maybe, with John Bond slightly disappointing and El Fabiolo kind of beating up inferior rivals over in Ireland. It looked as though it could be a bit of a sort of weak enough renewal, but now Edwardstone doing what he did at Newbury when we last saw him with that change of tactics really does throw something different into the mix here. And I I can't get away from his price. He's currently 7-1. Then you've got John Bond second best in the market at 3-1, and El Fabiolo is of course your 4-9 favourite. I'm really on the Edwardstone bandwagon now, Tony. Should I be?
I'd say he's possibly more of a win bet than an each way bet, because the way he's going to be ridden, I can't really see them dropping in with him. I think they found his kind of sweet spot, I suppose, riding him like that the last day. I think you just have to play to his strengths and go out and kind of do that again. But the way he's going to go forward, there's also other pace in the race. You have the Elixir, the Nuts, and there's Gary Moorhorse. Maybe that won't run when they've kind of had a look at the field and stuff like that. But there is going to be a fair bit of pace on. I know a lot of made was about the Constitution Hill gallops there. I thought the videos of John Bond, his jumping would have looked a bit upright now, and that I wonder, is he kind of feeling the after effects of the jump and the split that he put in the Clarence house. But look, Fabio was very, very much the one to beat. I think Captain Guinness can do a little bit better than his run at the Dublin Racing Festival. He got kind of quite a quiet ride, a kind of a ride that was kind of building back into this race, which probably suits him better than the Leopardstown races. I wouldn't be surprised to see him get into shake-up, and he'll probably be ridden with more restraint than the likes of Edwardstone or Elixir the Nuts.
Barry, as a jockey, jockeys always talk about, the slickness of 2-mile chasers and their jumping. That can't be said about El Fabiolo, because we know he can give one a fair whack. And after John Bond's performance last time, it also can't be said about him anymore. Not that he ever really was described as particularly slick either. Whereas, is there a chance that Edwardstone could put them under quite a bit of pressure from the front when it comes to their jumping?
I don't think so, no. Edwardstone has taken on a better class of horse here. I do think he'll run well, though. But El Fabiolo, you say he doesn't jump, but Moscow Flare was prone to making plenty of mistakes as well, and he won 2 champion chases. So, no, I think El Fabiolo's rock solid, won't be beaten. I'd agree with Tony on John Bond. His jumping in that schooling session didn't excite me, so I think he'll need to be better than that. And for that reason, I think Edwardstone could reverse his form with John Bond. And Alan Keeg did mention in the winners' enclosure after Newbury how he won't necessarily be ridden that way at Cheltenham. So with the pace that Tony mentioned, Elixir the Nuts and the likes, you might just find he might slot in third or fourth, ride a nice race on him, and probably be happy to ride him to run well, in the hope he could pick up a little bit more than that. If he goes and rides him like a pacemaker, he's just setting it up for the others. So I'd imagine he'll have a little bit of sense, be happy to take a lead, and he would be the horse on recent form who would be the one to chase home at Fabiola, I'd feel.
Okay, slight difference of opinion then in terms of the Edwardstone riding tactics, what that might result in result-wise. Other races on the Wednesday, boys, you've obviously got the Coral Cup. Jesus Christ, try unpicking that. The Cross Country Chase will be entertaining as always, Grand Annual, and of course Champion Bumper. We've already mentioned the Yellow Clay, of course, one of Tony's Ante-Post selections. So Tony, I will start with you. Other than the Bumper, which I think you've pretty much already covered, unless you want to add anything else in, do you want to flag up anything else at this point?
Yeah, just in the Coral Cup there, like Langardin is the horse that I suppose people have had in mind for the Coral Cup all season for fairly obvious reasons. The one thing I would flag up with him, like, he has bled this season, which is, to me, that's just a massive negative. I find it hard to face into him now, knowing that that's an issue there with him. Sam Majest is in this, and both the Martin Pipe. The handicapper has said he was a really hard horse to rate. Like, he's been left in his Irish mark at 140. Very, very hard to know what Noble Yates is in 2.5 miles around Limerick with a steady pace. I would be inclined to be against him. The horse is also quite fragile. He hasn't run an awful lot. Again, I just would find him hard to back at a short price. I'd try to do something else with him. I don't really have any view on the cross-country chase. There are other horses in the Bumper that are interesting and kind of on the up. I was really impressed with Jasmine DeVoe when he won in Naas. Hard not to be impressed with Jalan Duderies and his pair of quick runs at Fairyhouse and Leopardstown. And also, I know Maureen has been ruled out of the race, but the horse that won the Fillies and Mares Bumper at the Dublin Racing Festival, Fleur Fossil, She was really impressive too, in her own way, doing loads wrong, like racing very keen and making a kind of a big mid-race move and still kind of repelling them really well at the end. Maybe she'll wait for entry for the mares only race, but she wouldn't be the worst outsider for the champion bumper, I would have thought.
Okay, another one thrown into the mix there then. What about you, Barry, in terms of anything else to add up for the Wednesday?
Yeah, in the Grand Annual, like Alexis Deo, Harry Fry's runner, he's been unlucky his last twice. He'd been second, or he was going to challenge Harper's Brook when he unseated at the last, and he made a mistake. I think it was 4 out on his previous start. Johnny Burke rushed him back into the race, I felt, and got beaten as a result of that. So I think he's a horse who's been unlucky and can build on what he's done. He's definitely one with a shout at a fancy price. Of the others, I thought Cocoa Beach. The cross-country track is very different, obviously, from the racecourse itself. The racecourse, the main track, is so well drained, but the cross-country won't be as much. So you're pretty sure that's going to be soft ground. When Cocoa Beach is good form, having won the Tri-Town, he's a winner over the banks at Punchestown as well. So you know he's going to cope with what he's jumping. So I'd like Cocoa Beach for recent form in the cross-country. And Romeo Coolio, I thought in the bumper, his form was nicely franked by Sport and Glory in Farias last time when beating an odds-on shot of Gordon's back in third. So I think he could be one with a chance in what looks a wide open bumper.
Well, we've mentioned enough horses now for the bumper, so fingers crossed at least one of them runs well for the team. Right, let's roll on to Thursday, guys. Yeah, a couple of tricky races to unpick here, but we will start with the Turners Novices Chase. Obviously over the 2.5 miles. Another pretty open affair. Fact Father's currently at the top of the market, but of course we've discussed him because the attended plan is for him to run over further, of course. Then you've got Grey Dawning in there at 5-2, Ginny's Destiny 5-2, Facile Vega, again, Tony's already touched upon him for the Arkle, he's at 4-1, Gaelic Warrior in here at 4-1. What version of Gaelic Warrior is going to show up? Iroko 5-1, Ilete Toms again, now the Arkle favourite at 7-1, Founder 50 expected to go over the shorter trip as well. Barry in here. I suppose we could start with Gaelic Warrior. If he was to line up here over the 2.5 miles, do you think, despite his pre-race behaviour and his tendency to jump the wrong way as well, do you think he could win a Grade 1 at the festival like this over fences?
Although he disappointed at Leopardstown and he disappointed badly, his jumping was better than I would have expected, going left-handed. So with the race being, it's not the hottest race ever at this level. So he's definitely, if he was to reproduce what he did on his first couple of starts and jump how he did in Leopardstown, there's no reason he's good enough to beat the opposition, but there's a few ifs about that. Of the others, I thought Grey Dawning was going to beat Jenny's Delight only for that mistake he made at the second last in Cheltenham during the season. It's tricky enough. I thought that Iroko on one run over fences. Now, Chief won the Arkle on one run over fences. He's the only one I could think of. Jumped really well. Former winner of the Martin Pipe. It's a race that does work out really well. The horse is going forward. So he would be the one of interest. But I think it's a bit like the other Novice Chase. It probably lacks a superstar. Gaelic Warrior could be that if he was to reproduce, though.
Yeah, I mean, like you say, he has all the ability and the talent, but there are plenty of ifs and buts there. He's been tricky in the prelims, not only at other tracks, but of course at the festival before as well. So you have to factor that in, Tony. How are you playing the Turners, if at all, at this stage?
Yeah, I actually think this is a very interesting race. Just the type of horses that are coming into it. You've Iroko coming off a long break. You've Gaelic Warrior with a bit to prove. You've the couple of horses coming from the handicap form, and you've Grey Dawning. I think Grey Dawning's in the wrong race here myself. I think to be fair, but they're going for the Brown Advisory. I think the 3 mile is going to suit him better. Really impressive with him at Warwick the last day. I thought he improved for going up and trip. I can see the point that he could well reverse form with Ginny's Destiny, but Ginny's Destiny is one massive asset. Like his jumping is just brilliant. This track can start on the inside, can be a race for front runners, get away from. I think it's very hard to see him with not normal luck not being involved. I think he's a kind of a deserving favourite. He's a horse that I think has shortened into favouritism with what happened to Gaelic Warrior at the Dublin Racing Festival, but now it's started to drift back out. People say, he's only a handicapper. Paul Nicholls doesn't have a wonderful record at the festival these times, but I think he'll be banging the mix. I think I'd have him at the top of my shortlist anyway.
Well, very positive reports from the yard this morning. I saw plenty again of Ginny's Destiny. yeah, I mean, all very sweet on him in terms of, I think the thing that really strikes me about Ginny's Destiny is how much improvement they've obviously got out of him this season since Paul took over the training of him. But like, we don't know where that improvement's going to end. And like you said, he's rock solid jumping and he's rock solid around Cheltenham. There's loads to like about him. So I could be in agreement with you there, Tony. Right then, let's move on to the Ryanair then. This is absolutely fascinating. This and the Stayers Hurdle, both of which happen obviously on the Thursday. The Ryanair itself, you've got El Fabiola currently in the market, but we know that this isn't going to be his target, so we will just ignore him and his price. Then you've got Banbridge at 5-2, the ground dependent Banbridge. Previous winner of the race, Envoy Allen at 7-2, Fast or Slow in there, 7-2. Stage Star 4-1. Capodanno won't show up, conflated in there at sevens. I'm so intrigued by this. Barry, we'll come back to you here because, of course, it is going to be ground dependent with the appearance of Banbridge, and I was so fond of him, and I just really want and need him to run here. So please pray that the clouds don't start absolutely hooning it down on the Thursday. For me, Barry, please pray for me. Banbridge.
Yeah, well, I would agree with you, Vanessa. Obviously, the performance he put in at Kempton was brilliant, and he's going to be much better around Cheltenham. He's a former winner of the Martin Pipe as well. Jumps brilliantly. He stays really well. He wanted further than he was getting 2 mile as a novice chaser last year. So no, he's definitely he's a horse. I think he's the one to beat. And we're worried about the ground. So like, it's been one of the wettest winters we have on record, if you like. But yet it's predicted to start. The festival's predicted to start on good to soft. That won't be an issue for Banbridge. So unless we get a deluge like we got a couple of years ago and it goes desperately soft, I think it's coming Banbridge's way. And Thursday is a long way off. So there's every chance you could be looking at really good ground or decent ground. So no, I think Banbridge is rock solid. He's the one to beat. And the one you mentioned there, who I thought possibly could be his danger, good course form, put in a brilliant performance in the Paddy Power, is Stage Star. You obviously have to forgive him for bombing out on New Year's Day, but he's actually won the Turners last season. He never turned up last day, but he put in a brilliant performance in the Paddy Power. So I think building on that, he's definitely one with a chance in what's an open competitive race. But Banbridge would be the one I'd want to be on.
Yeah, me too. And as for Stage Star, they've kind of, the update on him would be that they've deliberately freshened him up. They know he goes extremely well fresh. They know that sort of the right approach with him. Obviously, they got it right last year, and they're very much on track getting it right in terms of just his well-being peaking at the right time this time around. So I don't think, yeah, I mean, like, these yards fill you with confidence, don't they? But yeah, I think they've got him in that sweet spot anyway to run his race, that Stage Star. Are you with myself and Barry, Tony, when it comes to Banbridge? Unoriginal, I know, but are you?
I just don't have a view on it. There's probably some ground related bet to be done, like Banbridge and Tiupu probably can't both win, so maybe double Banbridge into a good ground horse in the Stayers Hurdle, or bet Tiupu into the soft ground horse in the Ryanair or something like that. But no, I just don't have a strong view on it at the moment.
Fair enough. On to the Stayers we go, the muddling contest that is the Stayers. And of course, we've already had a little look at this. Was it last week or the week before? And Barry, you very much confirmed to us that you were very strong on Tiupu. I presume nothing has changed your opinion at this stage.
No, not at all. Very sweet and still. And Tony mentioned the ground. I rode Tiupu work the season before last, I think, or it could have been last season either. And the one thing I took note from was, I don't think this fella is as much ground dependent as he is trip dependent. He's obviously won the Hatton's Grace twice over 2.5, albeit it wasn't soft ground, but he's a good stayer. And I think the key to him is being fresh, and he's a brilliant record after a break. I think he's 6 from 6 with over 50 days of a break. I think he's the one to beat here, and for me, he's one of the bets of the week at the price he is.
Been strong on this the whole way through, so I like your confidence leading up to the big week. All about Tiupu. Irish Point, obviously, Tony discussing him potentially dropping back down in trip. Cranbourne there at 5-1, Noble Yates 8, Sir Gerhard at 9-1, Monkfish 11s, Flooring Porter 12s, and Paisley Park 16s. Of those latter mentioned horses, the one horse we do know that's going to show up and come with that rattle up the hill is, of course, Paisley Park. Expecting the same again from him to run his race.
Yeah, I suppose it would probably be a bad sign of the race if he were able to win at his stage again. Brilliant story, but just look at the ages.
You said the same about Sire de Burley last year, of course, and that muddling finish.
That is true. Yeah, that's true. And you know what? Is that a little stick to beat Tiupu with? Because even with things going his way last season, he might only have beaten them a length or two. I don't have anything massively against Tiupu. I take Barry's point. Maybe it is the freshness, maybe it is the ground. I just don't know, and I just don't know if I can bet him at 5-2 with that concern that he's been so effective in races like the Galmoy and the Hatton's Grace on testing ground. It wouldn't be a wild strong opinion. I was on a preview there with Kevin Blake on Friday night. He's quite keen on Home Beat Ali. I can kind of see it. He's run twice in the race. He's been beaten in it twice. I'd say the first time he ran it steady pace in the second of Flooring Porter's wins in the race wasn't much use to him, and he did actually run really well in it last year. He made a really what was a race ending mistake around halfway that should have finished him, but he actually kept on quite well to finish, I think, never near a fifth. There's obviously a chance with him, like he just didn't want to know the last day making the run, and maybe he's just gone sour at the moment. But if he did come out of the right side of the stable, and I think they're thinking of putting a bit of headgear, wouldn't be massive surprised to see him outrun his odds.
I think in the past I have called him on record a dog, so I'd be eating a bit of humble pie if he was to take a grade 1 at the festival home with him. But I'm happy to eat a bit of humble pie. That's okay. Right, Tony, let's stick with you for any other opinions on the Thursday Temps final, the Plate, the Mares Novice, and the Kim Muir all in the mix. Anything to add for those at this early stage?
Yeah, I think the Pertemps is a really, really strong running of the race. There's loads of Irish horses that I think are quite well handicapped and are kind of on the up and doing things right. I think Chancery House is a horse that's kind of plotted up for a little bit. Plenty of other English ones of note there. The price has gone a little bit. I kind of just haven't backed them just yet. I'm going to kind of wait. I think Gabby's Cross is somewhat interesting there at the bottom of the weights. He's lower than he is over fences, but more than that, he's running 2 Irish handicap hurdles, one at Galway, one at Punchestown. I just don't think the track has really suited him in either case. The kind of hold up style coming from rear with short straights just hasn't suited him. The Galway form was 2.6, be a little bit short from 2. Form worked out really well with Buddy 1, and then at Punchestown the last day he just kind of got a trouble run through behind Jody Ted. So he has a little bit of a chance. The Dawn Run, the Mares Novice Hurdle, God, like you know, kind of the way the preview nights can go mad for horses and mad against horses. I think Marine Nationale was one that maybe was going to actually be valued because everyone kind of hated him at the preview nights, but that opportunity is probably gone at the moment. But God, everyone seems to love Brighter Days Ahead now. I think she's gone very, very short now at 6-4, with kind of possible concerns about her pace for the trip. I know she travels well, but she just looks like a bit of a stayer to me. Might be better over 2.5. She does have the penalty, so again I think she'd be one now at her current odds, and she's probably going to stay like that for a little while. I wouldn't have any interest in backing her. I think she must be near her floor price at the moment, so that's going to be thoughts on the Dawn Run.
Yeah, I'm with you. The Brighter Days Ahead train has really made the Jade de Grugy angle, some of those other horses that like lots of people were very, very keen on when they last ran their races or whatever. But the hype around Brighter Days Ahead has meant that she's become very much the it horse, the fashion horse, as you say, on the Cheltenham Festival preview scene. Barry, do you have anything else to add in those races for the Thursday?
Well, we're all sticking the boot into Brighter Days Ahead because I'd feel the same. I thought her performance the last day over 2.5 in Navan on heavy ground, she looked to relish it. To me, then she wants further, I think. She beat Bantown in Downryle early in the season. I thought she was workmanlike enough. And a line of form through Jade de Grugy and Penny 100, who had Bantown behind her I thought that Jade Geraghty beat Penny 100 more comfortably than A Brighter Days Ahead beat Brantown. So I would be very much in the Jade Geraghty category. So no, I think she'd be the one against Brighter Days Ahead. Yeah, that'd be pretty much for me.
Okay, intriguing. I mean, you have to take on board what Gordon's saying about her, but yeah, I do think she's providing currently a little bit of value elsewhere in that Mares Novices. Right, on to Friday we roll. We've got the Triumph Hurdle to kick things off here. And again, this could be quite a short conversation. Barry, you might have a bit more information on Sergino, given your sort of closeness to the yard, but he is the standout here of the juveniles. He's 4-6 currently. After that is Marlborough at 6-1, Cargeese in there at 13-2, Stormheart at 10s. Salva in there is at 12s, and Salvador Mundi in there is at 12s as well. Obviously, Salva to run the ground would need to be heavy for the Gary Moore team, or not heavy, soft, I would say, actually, on the Friday. So if he's running, Bambridge probably isn't running the day before. But yeah, going back to my original point, Barry, does anything beat Sergino here, or is this a pretty simple conversation?
Well, he was the horse that came home in front of that piece of work with Constitution Hailing and worked really well. Looked at picture. He's a fine specimen of a horse. So he's a horse that will have improved all through the season. No, he is the one to beat, and he will be hard to beat. And as Tony mentioned last time, Marlborough, he's probably the one to take out of the Leopardstown form, but it lacks a standout. If Sergino can reproduce what he did last time, he should be hard to beat. And some people are questioning Nicky Henderson's form going into the meeting. He had a winner over the weekend, but that has often been the case because you know how much he gears everything towards Cheltenham, that he wouldn't have as much quality to run on the weeks leading up to the festival. So I wouldn't necessarily condemn his horse's form because of what he's running just mightn't be good enough. But Sergino definitely worked well in Kempton. If all is right with him between then and next Friday or Friday week, he'll be very, very hard to beat.
Tony, do you have any further thoughts on the Irish juveniles at this stage? Obviously, that muddling form, as Barry's touched upon, you've been mentioning throughout the season. We haven't got a standout from over there just yet.
Yeah, I think they're underrated. I feel like I'm going against a lot of these short price favourites over there. I'm not against El Fabiola, I'm not really against Ballybone, but I think the rest of them, I'm kind of keen enough to have a go at taking them on. Sergino, lovely performance on trials day. Very impressed the way he travelled, very impressed the way he jumped, very easy victory and all that. Not quite sure board at Road ran his race. He's really keen, and he's been ruled out for the season since. And I just think his price relative to the Irish horses is a little bit short. Like all these Irish horses from the spring juvenile, like they all cost a fair whack. You can be sure of it. Kenny Alexander never buys a cheap horse. Majesbury, you can be sure, costs plenty. Again, Tony Bloom never's a cheap horse. Ethical Diamond went through the sales publicly, cost well over 100 grand. What else have you got in there that was kind of in the shake-up? Can't just recall off the top of my head, but you know, the all expensive kind of horse. So I'm just wondering, is there more improvement in some of these? Majesbury is kind of the one you would think would improve the most, but he's kind of just become a little bit of a wise guy horse. He's more of a chaser as well. I'm just wondering, will he be kind of sharp enough for this? Stormheart is one. The ride that Paul Townend gave him the last dinner is just putting me off him. I just don't know. Does he hurdle slickly enough? He was keeping him wide, give him a look. Bunting looks a little bit slow. I could see Ethical Diamond improving again, but I think to be quite happy for him to remain a novice into next season and go to kind of Violetta Thomp's route. So I've come back to maybe the mare that's hiding a little bit in plain sight here, Cargeese. Like, she's the one that won the spring juvenile. She didn't have absolutely everything go away either. I think Stormheart and a few of them around the outside got first runner, but the way she travelled through it was really impressive. Not sure she was doing an awful lot when she hit the front. She's a big, actually, scopy mare as well. She's never run a bad race. She's plenty of experience built up. And again, looking at exchanges, she's twice the price of Majesbury. I think the market kind of makes up your mind for it. I've had a few quid on her now in the last few days. She's kind of pushing 11, 12, 13 to 1. Quite happy taking a chance on her. And I think I'd be keen to kind of probably get with her each way on the day. But again, I wouldn't knock anyone from back on Majesbury. I can see the angle. It's just the price would be a little bit putting me off at the moment.
Okay, Cargeese then getting a positive nod from Tony. Let's move on to the Albert Bartlett, Tony. William Mullins very much dominating this in terms of betting. He's got Reading Tommy Wrong, High Class Hero, and Dancing City, all sort of 11-2 Reading Tommy Wrong, 6-1. High Class Hero, Dancing City 7. So all kind of in and around similar prices. Kind of expect all three to show up here. But then after that, for the Brits, we've got Gidley Park, who's just been improving all the time for Harry Fry, 8-1. Shanghai Bob, still very much a work in progress for Nicky Henson, also 8-1. And then Captain Tegan there for Paul Nicholls. Having spoken to him today, very much got the impression, obviously he has both entries, but very much feel that this is going to be the preferred option as long as it's decent enough ground. And he's as big a price as 10-1 with BoyleSports. I think some of those British horses are overpriced here. God, I feel like those words coming out of my mouth, Tony, were even like nervously came out of my mouth, because to say that about a Grade 1 at Cheltenham where Willie Mullins dominates, again, I could be made to look like a mug here.
Yeah, don't mind Captain Teague at all. He's probably the best horse in the champion bumper last season with the way the race went. He was the horse coming into it after just one start. Kind of got into the wrong part of the track as well. Don't mind that case at all. I just really like reading Tommy Wrong in the Laurels of Naas. Very impressed with him. I'm just going to kind of stick with him. I thought loads went wrong from, didn't jump great in the early part of the race, was a bit kind of behind the bridle on and off. I just was saying, is this lad going to be involved at all? But just in the second half of the race, just come back swinging on the bridle, just picked it up, seemed to start to figure out what he was doing. I know a lot has been made of Il Atlantique didn't get the run of the race and all that. I just disagree with that. I just think it's far harder to come from off the pace and hurdle race at Naas that are anything other than pace collapses, and reading Tommy Wrong was able to do that. He wasn't wonderful, I think, at the last day, and he picked up your man well. I know he's not the ideal profile type of horse for this. You generally want something that's got loads of experience, but I think in general, Willie Mullins novices that are coming into the Cheltenham Festival with loads of ones in front of their name, a lot of the time that they're just very, very short. He's not very short, he's kind of 6-1. He won it with a not dissimilar type in the Nice Guy. I think if they're good enough, they'll kind of be sharp enough. So I'd be quite keen on him now at 6-1. I think he's a good favourite, albeit kind of quite a big price or mid-range price favourite.
Okay, like it. So you're sticking with reading Tommy Wrong. Barry, as Tony's outlined here, I think because of the three Mullins horses up at the top and they're kind of different profiles, but lots of wins next to their name, you're getting a good bit of value, even when you look down further at some of the horses at a bigger price. Is this a race that you've kind of got a strong opinion on at this stage?
I'm very much in the reading Tommy Wrong camp. I think he's got the best form. That Lawler's form for me is the strongest of any of these. But his style of racing, as Tony said, races behind the bridle, stays really well, only does as much as he has to. He's the ideal one for me to ride in this race. Like, you just creep away, and he does everything for you, comes alive when you need him. No, I think he's rock solid, and he's definitely one. He's good value, I feel, against his opposition. But you mentioned Captain Teague, he's a winner of the Challow Hurdle. Stepping up and trip is definitely going to suit him. And he's probably a good each-way bet, but I think reading Tommy Wrong, I'd be completely with Tony. I think this fella's great value.
Okay, two strong votes then for reading Tommy Wrong at around about the 11-2 mark with BoyleSports currently. Right, on to the big one we go. Again, the Gold Cup is a race we've discussed already a couple of weeks ago, and we will be discussing again nearer the time. Galloping de Champs is your even money favourite. Fast or Slow next best 4-1. Shishkin in there at 6s. Jerry Kalama 8-1. Lohan Press 12s. Hewitt 14s. Brave Man's Game, huge price at 16s. Can you tell, by the way, that I'm just back from Paul Nicholls' yards? I feel like I'm giving these Nicholls horses a bit of a shout these days on this show. Corrick Rambler at 16s. Gentleman's Game, the forgotten horse, really, 16-1. Monkfish and there might not show up. Real Whacker 33s. I will stop there, Barry. As we've discussed, we're going to have done this race to death, but it kind of deserves it, doesn't it? Being like such a deep Grade 1, Gold Cup. And, with Grade 1 winners at huge prices down the bottom of the betting, there really is an angle in here for everyone, isn't there?
Oh, you can make lots of cases. But Galloping de Champs is the one to beat, and he will be hard to beat if he does reproduce what he's done in Leopardstown his last twice, and what he did here last season as well. He's obviously a year older. He's an 8-year-old now, so he should be only coming to himself. So he will be a tough nut to crack. Fast or Slow, Martin Brazel makes the point he'd be better off a stronger pace, which he will be better off a stronger pace. But I do think Galloping de Champs will jump much better with a lead. So I can't see he's going to make the run, and albeit he will be ridden handy, he won't be making his own running. So I'd say he'll jump better with a lead, still makes him hard to beat. fast or slow, jumps fractionally right as well, which doesn't necessarily help his case either. Geraghty Calam, I'm not fully convinced he has the pace to match either of the top two. And I've been saying it, like your visit today, Brave Man's Game. I saw him in Kempton on Tuesday last week, striding out to his chin. He looked at picture, seemed in great form, worked really well. I think he's the one to chase home Galloping the Champ again. So he'd be, for me, he'd be the danger to the favourite.
Yeah, and is still a big enough price at 16s, but was bigger than that sort of maybe a week or so ago. So I think people are kind of latching on to looking back from 12 months and seeing what he did in the race, of course. Last year. Tony, over to you for the Gold Cup. Like, it was you who flagged up, did they need to run Galloping the Champs at the Dublin Racing Festival? They did, and we were delighted to see him. But if we're picking real holes in a horse that's even money favourite for a Gold Cup, are you still in any way concerned about that proximity to Cheltenham and the run?
You would be a bit, but like, fair play to him. I think this is the race they're meeting. Like, I'd say there's no second. Like, this is a brilliant race. Like, if your man coming back trying to win a second Gold Cup, having gone for every race that was possibly available to him in between times, and he got beaten a couple of times and he won a couple of times, and you're sort of trying to figure out, is he going to be able to win it a second time? Is it going to catch up with him? And I know he's beaten a lot of these in behind, but there are bits and pieces of reasons why they would get a little bit closer. So it's a hell of a race. Look, I don't think Galloping the Champs is some sort of awful favourite that I'd be mad keen to be against. I think that he can definitely make a case that he has more ability than any of these on what he did at Leopardstown at Christmas and what he did in this race last season. But I just personally, it wouldn't be a bet at kind of even money or 5-4 for me. I've played Corach Rambler in the race. Quite happy with that. I think he'll, in fact, without the favourite, back them each way. I think he can definitely be in the mix for the first 3 or 4. I presume the likes of Geraghty Calam and Fast or Slow and these are going to be looking to take Galloping the Champs on a bit more in the early part of the race. Like, just having no interest in taking on Galloping the Champs until the second last at Leopardstown the last day. I think it'll be a different story at Cheltenham. His jumping will be used far more, be up there pressing. So it sets up as a brilliant race. I'm just hoping Corach Rambler can kind of come late and hopefully get involved with it with his good kind of course form. I think he's 3 from 3 or that over fences, and the proven stamina if they do go quite hard early.
Yeah, you can so see him just finishing strongly up the hill to sort of maybe fill a position for Corach Rambler. He is 16-1 with BoyleSports currently, so that's 2 outside-ish shouts for what is an exceptionally deep Gold Cup. Can't wait for it. I think Tony's right. Really is the championship race, the race of the weekend, so it should be, because of course it's Cheltenham Gold Cup. Right, anything else to give a shout to? Barry, I'll come back to you here. Obviously, County Hurdle, the Fox Hunters, the Mare's Chase, been a good race in the past, and the Martin Pipe on the Friday. At this stage, anything else to add in here?
Yeah, Dino Blue is a warm favourite for the Mare's Chase. Allegory de Vassy second in the betting, but the one I'd like is Limerick Lace, who gets £5 off Dino Blue. Now, I don't necessarily think that Dino Blue won't get the trip, but I think she's more effective over 2 mile. Limerick Lace was second in the Tri-Town. She was a good winner in Doncaster last time. She's rock solid, good level of experience as well. So I think she's interesting at a price to oppose the favourite. And in the Martin Pipe, I thought Answer the Cave was reasonably well handicapped considering his form. And English handicapper hasn't sewn the boot into him either. So Answer the Cave I thought was one maybe could have a squeak in the Martin Pipe.
Okay, a couple of names then thrown into the mix there. And Tony, over to you for anything to pick up on the Friday.
Yeah, Waterford Whispers, my horse for the Martin Pipe. I'd be disgusted. If he can't beat Answer the Cave in the Fairy House form. To be honest, I thought he was much better than him. But we'll see. These stranger things have happened. Mare's, I'd be inclined to be against Dino Blue. I haven't just settled down on anything yet. It wouldn't be a massively strong opinion. King of Kingsfield is one now that is kind of quite prominent in the county hurdle. I would be against him. I think his attitude's quite suspect. I'd be quite worried about him getting the 2 mile one up the hill as well. I thought he looked a bit awkward now. He has looked awkward in the past, and he went through a phase of looking alright, and then behind Ballybourne the last day I thought he was back to looking awkward again. So yeah, I'd be against him. I'm actually really looking forward to getting a proper dig into the county, but again, I've just been lazy. I just can't face into a handicap with 80 runners when they're going to cut it back to whatever management field on Saturday. So I'm just going to wait till then.
Yeah, we will forgive you that. I think that's fair cop. Guys, I'm going to read out the price boost one last time, but before I do, I'm going to leave you just for 15 seconds to think about my final question. What's your Cheltenham Festival wish, boys? Can be anything. Can be a horse winning, a trainer having a winner, a jockey having a winner, or just a more general wish for the Cheltenham Festival. That's going to be our closing question on the show. But before the boys answer that, price boost go like this then. Telmesomethinggirl for the mare's hurdle is boosted to 25 to 1 from 20s. Stay Away Fate has been boosted to 100 to 30 from 11 to 4 for the Brown Advisory, and the Yellow Clay has been boosted from 8 to 1 to 9 to 1 for, of course, the Champion Bumper. So those are your 3 price boosts. But as with all these things, the T's and C's will be on the BoyleSports website. Those prices will be for a limited time only. And yeah, please do it responsibly. We want you to have loads of fun in the next week or so, but please do it responsibly. That much of you I ask. Right, boys, I hope that was enough filling time for you to have a quick think about your answer here, because I'm throwing this one on you because I don't think either of you have read the running order. So Barry, over to you. What's your one wish of the Cheltenham Festival 2024?
My one wish, I met Audrey Turley during the year, Galloping the Champs owner. I told her he's my second favourite horse, with my favourite one being Constitution Hill. So yeah, Galloping the Champ I think is a superstar, so I'd be thrilled to see him have his moment in winning the Gold Cup.
Okay. If I could grant you that, I would, but thanks. And Tony, what's your one wish of the Cheltenham Festival?
Two wishes here. The first one's completely churlish and correlated with the second one, that I win money, obviously, and the second one is that Winnie Mullins doesn't win everything. The two of them are probably very, very heavily linked. Definitely. So if a few his short ones don't win, would be great. I think probably better for the sport if a few other people get in the act too. So yeah, sorry, Willie.
No, I'm with you on that. And I'm Team Willie Mullins as much as anyone, but I'm with you on that. And you know what? I've got an inkling that this Cheltenham Festival, there's going to be a few different names in the hats. I think we've got some surprises coming our way. Cannot wait for it all to unfold. So enjoyed building up to it. And of course, this isn't it. We do have our daily shows. We'll be doing short, snappy episodes of Off the Fence, going through the races each day with about 24 hours notice for you. So perfect viewing if you're on your way to the races or the night before, etc. Thank you very much, boys, Barry and Tony, as always. Viewers, listeners out there, thank you for joining us. Do get involved with those price boosts that I've already rattled off. But as I said, they are for a limited time only. And do join us again into next week, where we will be doing those daily shows. But for now, that was Off the Fence.